It's Friday morning, and once again, it's time for this stream where this old guy does stuff on camera that has to do with building models that sometimes work out okay, and sometimes don't. It'll be how things will go today. Either they'll go well or not. So, as it says, will there be tears of joy, or will there just be tears? It doesn't say that. It says, or just tears. Yeah, I just typed that in. I should have known what it said. I just typed it in and I was just reading it and I still didn't get it right. So yeah, there's a refresher. I'm working on the Star Trek Enterprise command bridge, right? And I've got parts of it done that I'll show you here. The camera. Let's see if my camera person and director there. See, I got parts of it done here, and I have steps that are ready to be installed that I should get around to doing. Put them on the inside here, kind of where they belong, instead of the outside circle where they don't belong, where they're just going to get knocked around or broken or something. So the steps go, they need to be attached somehow, so that they're where they're supposed to be. And I fabricated a piece of cardboard here that I don't know, this stuff stays up real nicely, so that the middle doesn't look like just, it looks sort of like the rest of it, sort of. So at some point in the future, I need to attach those steps, and I'll do that at some point in the future. As you can see, this thing bounces around a little bit because it didn't come out totally flat. I'm not going to work too hard to fix that. Yeah, I've got I've got the main view screen that goes here, and the side view screen that goes there, and the elevator that goes there. Those are ready. But then there's all these panels all the way around here that have display screens on them that have, they're gray with white borders, and I tried a couple of shortcuts and cheats and sort of things to paint them, and that didn't work. So I'm just, one of these days, maybe today, I don't know, I'll get back to attempting to paint those. But the story today, which is, another one of those tears or not tears, who can tell, are these chairs. And I on Wednesday, tried to find a way to emulate or simulate or replicate or other kind of cake the black bit here, instead of painting them all blue. So I got some radiuses cut out and some tape put on and painted the rest of the blue. It's not the same blue. It's not exactly that kind of blue, but it's a nice blue. And it's the color blue I had. So that's the color that it's painted, because I wasn't going to go out and try to match that blue color. Well, tape's going to come off. We'll see how they look. That's how today is going to start, by finding out how these turned out. So let's pick one. Here, this one. This will be the first one. Getting the tape off is going to be, it's going to be a little challenge, isn't it? Kind of concerned about that. It's nicely taped on, but there isn't any place, there's no real way to grab the tape. I'll just pull on it, see what happens. There, the tape is coming off. That actually looks, that kind of looks okay. Look at that. Huh. Well, there's one anyway. No, it's not the same. The blue's not the same. The black's not the same, but it is the dark. You know, the dark is supposed to be darker than the blue, and it's the opposite, but it's got the curve on it. So what I did was a success, at least sort of on one. You're not going to be exactly identical because they were all hand taped, but there's another one that at least gives the impression of how it should look. I suppose I could have painted that black before I taped it, right? I thought about doing that, and then I wasn't sure that the blue would cover. So this is just how they're going to be. They're going to be inauthentically colored, but they've got the rounded bit. So the blue should be lighter, the gray should be darker. But other than that, it's better than if I had just simply painted them all blue. Yeah, I think that came out. This actually came out okay. Maybe I should do this more on camera so that you can see what I'm doing. There's the tape here. Tape and cardboard. Okay, well there. So with the colors wrong, the colors are wrong. Okay, but I did get the roundy bit. So that technique I used, which I'll probably never use again, of creating a radius with the cap of a pen and taping it worked. Now these need to go in a box. No, here's a box. This is the box that has the bases in. I guess it'd be kind of fun to finish these. I could finish the chairs and put them in the done box. They need to be finished by having the pedestals attached. There. I think I might just use contact cement to do that, because it just grabs more quickly, and it's a flat surface against a flat surface, and I'm just going to do it that way. It'll be the fastest way. I'm going to put a piece of paper towel down, because sometimes working against this the dark cardboard is just hard to see. Not just for you, okay? It's harder to see for you because the contrast isn't there, but it's also harder for me because the contrast isn't there. So this is in the way now. This is in the way, this cardboard. And also in the way is the used tape. And also in the way were my glasses. And I put them there where I'll never find them again. I don't need the tweezers. I don't need the tape. I do need a little toothpick. So this will involve, I also don't need everything that's in this box. I only need the seats, bases. The other things that are in this box, these are the railings that also get attached somewhere. And these are the things that hold up the railings. And I haven't lost any. These I don't need anymore, so I can put them there where I won't remember where they are. Okay. Now I'll use the contact cement on this. And then, my fragments of paper towels. Great. We'll need this because the contact cement is going to get messy. I think on Wednesday, in order, until Amon came on and we could hear about how her character is coming along in the development of her animation, not like cartoon animation, but animating, like making things animate. Okay, that makes sense. How that is coming along. I was resorting to talking about Yogi Bear because I don't have anything to talk about much anymore without getting into repeats. I suppose I could. That was always a feature, not a flaw, right? It was a feature of television. There was the season, the new television season that usually brought back old shows, unless they went off the air and replaced by something else. The season ended and all one had on television was reruns. Everybody complained about that. That was a thing. It was a thing to do, to complain about the summer television, because all it was reruns. And we were young then, and so they were rerunning things that had just shown 5 or 6 months, 3 or 4 months, just a few months earlier. And we had memory then, young enough to remember that I saw this show already. I know how it goes. You can only watch the same episode of McHale's Navy so many times before where you don't want to see it again. There's contact cement. This stuff is, I don't know if there's a way to thin it. I don't know if there's a way to thin it or not. It would be nice to have it be less viscous, have it be like it was when I first bought it, which is, less viscous. still works, but it does the spider webby thing that old-fashioned tube model cement did, and it's not adhering to the surface of to which it is being applied as well as it used to. Maybe I should read the labels, directions, and cleanup and things. There might be a way to thin it. And if there is, I can try it and see if it works. If it doesn't work, well, then it might just be time to make a huge capital investment in a new can of contact cement. I like using this because it's a slow version of CA glue. Okay, it's it does grab itself after it sits there for a bit, but like I can get it on all of these surfaces, and they can just sit there. In fact, they should just sit there, and then I can come around and attach them to themselves, and it has a little bit of ability to reposition. Okay, so it's like a senior menu at a restaurant. That's what these are. This is like the senior menu at a restaurant. It has some of the advantages of CA glue, but it works more slowly and lets me make mistakes without too much of a disaster. This is just really, the can top is just gummy. It's all messed up. It's probably why it's drying out. It's not. Yeah, I mean, with the glue on here, it probably should actually seal itself. Yeah, right before I get my fingers in it. No clamps needed. Shake before use. Use only in a well-ventilated area. Let dry 15 minutes, but not over 2 hours. Carefully align surfaces. Yeah. Contact cement is not for use in high-stress bonds, copper alloys, or some plastics. Huh. I wonder if it's these plastics. Mineral spirits to clean up. But don't use mineral spirits to clean skin. It doesn't say what you should use to clean skin. I wonder, I've got acetone. I wonder if I put a little bit of acetone in here, what would happen? And I could try that after I'm done putting together some of the other pieces where I'm going to be using this. I might try putting some acetone in to thin it down and see what happens. But I'm going to buy another can of this first. Another can of this first so that I've got, if that didn't work, if that thinning it down didn't work, I wouldn't be without. It sticks and it let me rotate that. Some of that, like I said, when I first bought this, and it was fresh. It didn't form these little spidery things, these spider web things at all, and now it is. There was one on this, and now I can't see it. Trying to make sure that it's vertical. It's one way to get it not to be vertical is to drop it. Just getting it lined up. Now I can see it. It looks like it's not a spider webby thing, it's a piece of hair. Oh, there. That's a chair. That's how it's supposed to look. It just stands there. And the instructions say, what do they say? Chair. Location optional. I wonder what, that's interesting. You see, there's always ambiguity in language. It says location optional, which means that you could have many options about where to locate it, but it could also mean more strongly that any location at all is optional. It's optional to have a location. So maybe, one option is to not have the chairs out there. So that's a thing that could happen. Yep. There's an option there. Yeah, so I'm looking at these and I'm kind of thinking I wish I had painted these black, but I wasn't sure this was going to work, and I just kept the primer color. But oh, they look adequate. They'll be okay. It looks better than if I hadn't done that at all. Yeah, and how many people are going to know and really care that I've got the chair colors wrong? They should just be amazed at how I managed to get the curve on there. They should be impressed by that. Oh, how did you do that? That was pretty good. Too bad you got the colors wrong. Then it would look okay. Now it just looks like it's, Klingon or something. I don't know. Everything got reupholstered after season 2. That's my cover story. And pushing it down and rotating, just wiggling it a little bit to feel it, because it's a flat surface against a flat surface, and when it's flat against flat, then it's oriented correctly. I discovered that during test fitting. Test fitting is really important because you would be surprised, unless you were building models with some frequency, you would be surprised at how often parts don't fit. or they don't fit the way you think they would fit. They have to be modified. I'm wondering if I can do repeats. Old favorites. I could start talking about cartoons again. That was one of the first things I did when I had to fill the auditory space, with me talking to myself, because the music wasn't playing. There's that story about the music, why it's not playing. But there, I got chairs. I've got chairs, and their location is optional. That is to say, move the camera here. One can set these chairs anywhere you want, even up here. Got six chairs in inauthentic colors, but with authentic curved backs. They're curved backs like that. I've got a done box. I have a box that actually says done on it, but I have other done things in it. So this one isn't labeled, but it has the panels that are done. The main, geez. Yeah, there. The camera person and director are just not paying attention. The main view screen, there's a red planet of some sort down there. And I've got the side screen, which isn't a screen at all. It's just a whole bunch of, it's a decal with a whole bunch of stuff on it. And the elevator door came out really quite well. It got nice. I think that was well masked and painted. I'm happy with that. And it has a top and side view of the Enterprise and a little label that says that's what you are. When you go to the elevator, you know that you're on the Enterprise because it says so. I'm going to very carefully pick these up, check one more time to make sure that these are, not tilted. Really, you could tell when this was made, the TV show, because the chairs, it's like how office chairs were at the time, kind of. So I'm very carefully putting them in this box, and then you know what's going to happen. What's going to happen is that they will very carefully get knocked over as I bump the box into something, as I set it back to where it was. But the chairs came out okay. I mean, like I said, other than the color, the back should be darker and the blue should be lighter. If you stare at them long enough, you'll get an after image, and that would probably that'll look better, your after image. Okay, so this is the done box, and those are done. So I'm going to move this and set it over there, and hopefully they will. I can't reach that far now. There we go. Well, I can try to attach the steps, or I can go back. I'm going to be kind of brave. Here I am saying I'm going to be brave, and I'm going to attempt to do some touch-up painting on the display screens. What I should do is I should take this and just put it aside somewhere. Side. That side in particular. It was a side. That is the side, literally a side. Yeah, I'm gonna have to put up with that because I can't come up with anything interesting to talk about. So I'll just talk about things being put aside on a side to my side. So what I'm doing is retrieving these things. Here's the smallest one. This one is the most difficult. And what you can see here is that this is kind of a slightly off-white, and then gray decal goes here with some sort of display. Decals go on here too. And I'm trying to get the frame to look good. So I painted the gray first, and the gray got all over the frame. And then I painted the frame white. And sometimes the white got onto the gray. Not too often, but there's still some spots where the white didn't like fully cover. So I'm going to, what I need to do is on all of these display panels, just get the white looking better. And hopefully not get too much white paint onto the gray paint, so I don't have to come back with the gray paint to touch up the white, and just keep iterating back and forth until it becomes, to the point where I just can't stand it anymore, maybe. I'm not sure. But at some point it'll look adequate. Doesn't have to look great, just adequate. And that's the first, well, I'll just tell the story. I started doing this and I thought I would have a shortcut. So this is white, okay? This isn't white, this is off-white, and this is the dark metallic color of the control panel on the command chair, and then this edge is red. And I thought, well, I'll just paint the white without priming. And I did, and it didn't work. And so then I just sprayed white primer over it. So this is primed and this is primed, but this was taped. And I should have just left it untaped because now it's not primed. And I don't know if it's just going to take longer because I tried some shortcuts and the shortcuts turned into long cuts. So this was covered over because I thought that I could paint it without priming it. I was trying to save some of this white primer that I've got. So after I get these lines adequate, okay, then this is going to be done. So the multiple steps are everything is going to be taped like around here. Okay, so just this part shows. And this part, it has to be primed because I learned that the paint doesn't stick if it's not primed. So they have to be primed. And then after it's primed, then I paint it in off-white. And after that's painted off-white, then I take the tape off, the mask, and I paint this edge red. Okay. And then after that's dry, then it's masked here and here, and this center section is painted. That's already primed, so there's that. So you can see there's many steps that yet to go, and there's a possibility of something going wrong at each step. We'll find out. But I think if I get the red paint on here, even if the top edge isn't perfect, once I tape it, okay, once I mask that, that should give it a clean edge when I paint the rest of it. That's the thought. So I've got this white paint that works pretty well. It works even better if it's got a little water on it. So I've been kind of avoiding doing the white touch-up, mainly because starting last Friday, things got really chaotic with the construction project that's going on. In fact, Friday I didn't stream at all because the construction people showed up just as I was going to start, and I had to spend an hour and a half with them to make sure that things were going well. That some things that were going to go not well didn't happen. I guess I'll put it that way. So that took up some time. And then on Monday, I got started on time, but I had to take a break to take a family member to see them off to the airport. And that break took longer than I thought. And then I got back and I was starting again, and the doorbell rang and I had to just stop. It was bad. So Friday got canceled. Monday got screwed up. Wednesday, I did get the entire stream in Wednesday, but mainly it had to do with taping the chairs and then taking all that tape off after I discovered how to get the curve on them. And the thing I came up with worked, but Wednesday was I assembled the stairs. Spent most of the time putting masking tape on and taking it off and putting more masking tape on in a different way. So that's that. So if I can make this work, this will be like a breakthrough moment. If I can get this white where it needs to be and not where it's not. It's not going to be perfect, I know. It's going to still be a little bit raggedy, but no, I don't know if it's raggedy enough to come back with the gray paint again or not. The edges are just going to look like they're hand painted because that's what they are. They're just going to look that way. Like there's some unevenness here, but there's just see, I tried to fix that. I tried to fix that little bit, and I messed it up by trying to fix it. So I have to put a little dot. I'm going to have to put a little dot of gray paint on that later. to fix what I just messed up by trying to fix something. So what I have to do here is not overdo it. Okay, if something looks okay, like yeah, that'll be okay. It shouldn't like not do what I did. Just overcorrect. So there's like a tiny dot there and there. Bottom edge here. The line isn't too bad, but the paint isn't covering, so it's like getting a second coat over. It's already white, but we're not getting it anywhere else. Am I on camera? Up and see. Yeah, okay. On camera enough anyway. I went a little bit over the edge there. So I'm going to have to come back with the gray. It's probably not just the screen, but all the other screens. And just, find the spots that I was going, oh, this is going pretty well. Oops, the brush slipped, right? There. And it requires these tiny little dots of gray paint. So with each iteration, going back and forth between the white and the gray, it should look better. And under the magnification, it looks not terrible. Yeah, see, I was touching up there and it slipped again just a tiny bit. Okay, well, there's that. Let's come back with the gray paint again at some point in the future and keep doing this until I'm satisfied with how it looks, right? Well, actually, what I want to do is I want to stop a little bit before I'm satisfied with how it looks. Because as I keep finding out here, that extra little bit of, there's just this one little spot. that messes it up. That's just real raggedy. Going silent when I'm doing this kind of thing. Talked about this before. It's the walking and chewing gum at the same time syndrome. I can't do this tiny little detail painting and talk at the same time. You'll just have to look at the top of my head and imagine that I am putting little bits of paint exactly where they belong to make this look good. Not good. To make this look okay. And that you have to have a suspension of disbelief. Okay, suspend your disbelief. And pretend that at some point in the future, hopefully not much more than next week, but that sometime in the future, hopefully next week, this will have achieved the level of adequateness. It looks okayness that I can move on to the next level of masking and painting. Guess that'll be okay. I thought I got too far down, but it looks okay. This is going slowly enough that it may be that depending on how my hand is working, level of steadiness. If my level of steadiness is steady enough, I might be able to come back and do the gray retouch up yet today. A lot just depends on how long this takes and how it ends up looking. There's just there's a lot of little white lines that need to be worked out here. There's a lot of boundary between gray and white. I'm going to try to talk about something while I'm painting. I don't know how successful I'll be. I started talking about Yogi Bear. Why? I don't know, because it was one of the cartoons that I grew up with. And it was kind of is. I'll just do a little aside here. What was kind of amazing is how many adults, meaning any at all, I mean like any adult at all, decided they wanted to be Yogi Bear. It was funny. I had a summer job. It was the summer after I graduated from high school. Okay, so I had a summer job working in the engineering department at a factory. My job was to make a map of the factory floor. Okay, that's not going to really play a part in the story, but that's what I was doing. So I had to get like a a bunch of stuff. It was done on a plastic grid, a sheet of plastic with a quarter-inch grid on it, and each quarter inch was a foot. So it was a scale drawing, and they were going to use it to help position some of the equipment in the plant, so it had to be pretty accurate. So I spent a lot of time walking around. They had like a, that's getting really bad down there. This edge is really difficult. It's bottom edge. I'm going to have to come back with the gray, a significant way here. So I said it wasn't going to be a big part of the story because I wanted to talk about Yogi Bear, but it's going to turn out to be a big part of. Well, okay. Well, that was a failure. The surface is rough, and it's not taking the paint well. So I need to come back with the gray and just reestablish where the line is going to be. And now there's a paint buildup on there, so it's going to be lumpy. It's going to take a good deal of work and patience. Looks okay. Yeah, that whole line down here. This is messed up in more than one way, though. There's a scratch along here because it's mostly okay except for down here. Oh, I almost just bopped it with the brush. That would have been really bad. So I was going to talk about Yogi Bear, and I thought, well, the story of what I was doing and why. But why not? It's something to talk about. It'll fill the time. So they had a plan of the footprint of the building. Okay, so I could tell where the walls were and what the dimensions were. And I used different color tape on this 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch grid to represent different things. Like black tape was, 1/8 inch tape, kind of like some of the thin tape I'm using for the model here. So use this really thin tape and put the outline of the building onto the grid. So it wasn't just the outline of the building, it was also, couldn't tell where the line was, and I went over. Okay, well, that'll have to be grayed out. And then there, support beams that held up the roof, and those were permanent fixtures, so those were in black tape. And those are on the plans. I was doing okay, and then I moved the brush, and yeah. There's the most common problem is getting the brush 2 inches from the surface, so I just went over the edge there a little bit. So the next thing, after I got the lines in of the walls and the support pillars, is I needed to locate the pathways. They had these yellow lines everywhere. And if you stayed inside the yellow lines, that was the safety part. And if you went outside the yellow lines, then you weren't quite as safe because you were getting into where, people were operating heavy machinery. They had punch presses and welding tools and massive drills and sorts of metalworking going on. Metalworking and upholstery. They're making truck seats there. There's a lot of different kind of equipment going on. And then I use really thin little yellow tape after very carefully going out the plant and measuring where these lines were. And I had to use the set reference points of support beams from the drawings that I had. Okay, well, it got messed up in a couple of places. Definitely not going to be able to avoid coming back with the gray paint. That is going to be a necessity. And I really want to avoid coming back with the white paint after I come back with the gray paint. Paint never got in the right place there to begin with. Yeah. So I spent huge numbers of hours walking around with like a clipboard and a tape measure, measuring everything so that I could accurately, more or less accurately, pretty accurately, get it onto grid. So the clever thing, this is how they wanted it done, is there were different layers for each thing. So there was one layer of this plastic that just had the immovable parts of the building, the walls and the support posts, right? Plastic wasn't transparent. It was kind of translucent, but you could still see through it pretty well. The next layer were the yellow lines. And those had to be lined up, accurately with the black lines so you could lay it over it. So that the engineers knew that, you couldn't move the black lines, but you could probably move the yellow lines. And then the next step was to locate the machinery, the punch presses and the welding station and things like that. And those all had to be measured. Measuring that was a little bit tricky because they were in operation. So I had to sneak in like during lunch hours and stuff. Those were green pieces of tape that approximated the shape and size of the equipment. So when that was laid over, you could tell where things were. And when I finished, they actually ended up using it. I was really kind of surprised. They hung it up and they overlaid the layers over each other and spent some time talking about how things could be relocated, because I guess some new equipment was coming in, or they were trying to redesign the flow of material. That was kind of cool that I actually did that. So why am I talking about this? Because one of the guys there, the one who went to the wherever store was to buy the material, the plastic grid and the tape and all of that. He was one of those adults who thought he was Yogi Bear. He called me little buddy. Hey, little buddy. Started to talk like Yogi Bear's accent. I thought that was very weird. Okay, well, that was going okay, and then it was another one of those, oops, look, the brush went where I didn't want it. I need to come back and fix the oops. Yay. So many of the repairs that need to be made are the result of not being careful getting the brush to and from the work surface. No, this one's being a bear, not a Yogi Bear. Being uncooperative. every once in a while, after the shopping trip, get the materials for the map of the facility. He'd stop in and do his Yogi Bear thing. And a little buddy was coming along. It wasn't so much annoying as it was just bizarre. It was weird. But yeah, I mean, there are all these people who thought they were several people. There were some people. I mean, one people is enough thinking that they're Yogi Bear. I mean, you don't really need a lot of adult men walking around talking like Yogi Bear. At least, they didn't get into the character so much. They didn't like bring picnic baskets to work for their lunch or anything like that. That was good that they didn't do that. It was just can't really call it an accent, but the speech mannerisms. To say that, it was an okay thing, Yogi Bear, but like a lot of these cartoons, they were really one dimensional. It was Yogi Bear trying to get a picnic basket, or some other way of outsmarting Ranger Smith, frustrating Ranger Smith. And I mean, how many times can you do that before you've done it all over? It's a good thing the audience was really young, otherwise it would be really boring. Managed to keep us amused. And it just went a little up too far. Again, it's hard to see sometimes where the appropriate line is. One Yogi Bearism is that picnic became a 3-syllable word. He was always trying to steal picnic. He just said picnic baskets. It's probably a whole bunch of kids grew up thinking that instead of going on a picnic, you went on a picnic, because that's how Yogi Bear said it. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm just asking the question. Did kids grow up thinking that the word picnic had 3 syllables? Because that's how Yogi Bear said it. And if Yogi Bear said it, that had to, he was a voice of picnic basket stealing authority. Oh, this is just second coating. Right to get a little more consistent. That was, you know, that's Yogi Bear. Smarter than the average bear. Yogi Bear is always in the ranger's hair. You have a picnic basket, you will find him there. And then let's repeat, Yogi Bear is smarter than the average bear, because that was his catchphrase. I'm smarter than the average bear. I can't do the voice. I don't do voices very well. Now, a person who does voices really well is our DM, Alexis, who could actually just be like a voice actor, because she's really, really good. Brings all of our NPCs to life. This really adds a lot to our show, because I need to do that. Dyson Dungeons is all about our show. It's not about this. This one's done. This is just one of those spin-offs that they call them, you know. A spin-off is there's a popular television show, and then a character shows up on the show, usually not the main character, like a side character, and either they become popular or they got a really good agent. It's hard to say which. Nowadays, you can't really tell anyway. Is somebody really popular, or is there just some sort of manipulation of social media to make it look that way? But what would happen is that usually there'd be a character that got really popular, and the actor portraying that character didn't have any other gig, because if they did, they wouldn't agree to the spin-off. Somebody sells the idea that people will watch this show if you feature this character that's really popular, even though they're not like the main character of the show, like Happy Days, the Fonz, right? It became one of those characters, and so got to be a spin-off. Or Frasier, you know, who was kind of initially minor character, kind of an interloper almost. Wow, I really messed that up. I just missed the line altogether. But kind of a popular character. And apparently, the person who played Frasier, you know, didn't have anything else to do. Talked the studio into writing a whole nother series based on them. The spin-off. Sometimes they work, because I know that Frasier was a very popular show after Cheers. I think that's what it was. Where everybody knows your name. Ooh, that was spooky, wasn't it? When you think about it. You want to go where everybody knows your name. It's like, whoa. No quiet anonymity here. Okay. Glad this is the last one. I'm starting to lose focus, and I'm messing up the lines instead of fixing them. Slow down just a little bit. Go down and be a little more careful with the paint. Because I don't want to spend the rest of my life going back and forth between white and gray paint, trying to get these frames looking okay. One more go at it with the gray paint, and then maybe tiny little spots of white. Maybe a few of those after that. I want that to be the end of it. I don't want to do more. Slow down and be much more careful with the white paint here, because I messed up a couple of times now, and that's not helpful. So that's what this stream is. This is a spin-off of our Dungeons and Dragons show. You'd say, how can that be? That doesn't make sense. This doesn't look like Dungeons and Dragons. Well, the thing is that we make our own minifigs and dungeon tiles for the show, and they get painted, and the painting of them became the original stream. I messed that up again. So that was the stream, was the painting of the dungeon tiles and the minifigs, and then there weren't any, and I said, okay, well, that's that. And then our DM said, no, keep streaming. Can't you build a model or something? And I said, well, yeah, I can, because I've got like 3. I have lots of models. Several dozens of models that I bought when I retired that I never got around to working. And she said, well, just do those. And I said, well, why? Because somebody might want to watch. And you can plug the Dungeons and Dragons show, and some of them might become fans of Dice and Dungeons that way. If you think so, I can do that. And so here I am, building the command bridge of the Enterprise. So if you've been watching this at all, either the stream or the YouTubes later. Can I say that? The YouTubes? Probably not. That's probably something stupid. But I said it anyway. You can watch it on YouTube's, the old ones. I've been doing mostly I've been building kind of like vintage models. Built in 1960s Renwall, George Washington, nuclear submarine cutaway model, which is a model I built when it first came out. This time I very carefully painted all the pieces, and I think it came out pretty well. Look at this from another angle. I keep saying this whenever painting, a demarcation line, it just looks different from different angles. And one way it looks like the paint needs to go up a little further, and then I turn it, and it was like, nope, that went too far. What's happening here? Well, this iteration wasn't perfect. I do need to go back with the gray, do touch up from where the line isn't right or the white paint got on it where it shouldn't have been. There isn't too much of it. There's just tiny little spots that I have to be exceptionally careful with. Each time there's paint buildup, it gets a little bit harder because it's not an even surface. I think this was the last one. Yeah, I mean it's a little. It's not like A+ work. It's B- work. It's coming along. It's coming along okay. What I'm going to do is stretch a little bit, take these off for the moment, and I am going to 11:30. I'm only oh my. Okay. I got a lot of time left, don't I? Maybe to get my glasses on. I can't see anything anymore at any distance. '30. Yeah. Okay. I've got a fair amount of time left. What I'm going to do, I want the white paint to dry before I go back to the gray. Because I just don't want to have the paints run into each other. So I'm going to move things around again. Use this brush for the gray, really tiny brush this time. Move things around again, hopefully not messing them up. I'm just setting things up out of the way. Almost knocked over a coffee mug. That would have been really excitingly awful. I did that once. I have knocked over a coffee mug. Fortunately, it was before the stream started. So the stream was a little bit slow in starting that day because I was cleaning up a spilled mug of coffee, an entire one of these, which is a lot, all over the work surface, mostly on that side, but still, it was not a good way to start the day. So the thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set up the I'm going to set things up so that I can install the staircases. Okay, remember I talked about that. I'm going to just move things around. I'm just moving things around, just, to move things around, I guess. I'm going to bring back the ring, the circle of the command deck. Going to, while I'm waiting for the paint to dry, I'm going to attach the staircases to where they're supposed to be. Like that. They're supposed to go like that. So there's sort of a flat surface here, and here. That's the only contact point. There's no guide. There's nothing. Okay. There's no little guide slots or anything. They're just supposed to be. You're just supposed to, like, get it in the right place and hold them there until they're attached. And I could use contact cement for that. Okay. It's easy enough to put the contact cement there and there, but it's not easy to get it on exactly the right spots here. So even though it's a pain to do it, to use it, I'm going to use epoxy. This whole thing just didn't ever lay flat. All the segments came together and then it's off a little bit. But the epoxy will grip. I can put it on one side, right? And very, very carefully ease that up. This is a place where CA glue would really work. I could put a little bit of here and a little bit there. And very, very carefully aim and stick it and go, and it would be done. I think I actually have some CA glue, but I'm going to guess that even though the tube has never been opened, that because it's at least 10 years old, I don't know what the shelf life is. I can't use model cement. Model cement would actually be, because they're painted surfaces already. Okay, so that won't work. The contact cement isn't going to work because it has to be on both surfaces. I don't have the CA glue, and I'm not very good at using it. So I'm really kind of stuck just using the epoxy as my adhesive of choice here. This is going to take way longer than one would expect because I have to mix it up. It takes 5 minutes to set, and I have to hold it in place while that's happening. And I can only do one at a time. So it's kind of annoying for anybody who's paying attention to this, but it's for me, unfortunately for you, but for me, This is the only way I'm going to be able to make this work. And still have it not look, have it look okay. Hopefully this stuff will hold. Sometimes it doesn't. I'll be mixing this up. There's tiny little bits of it, as you can see. It has really no gripping power. Unlike the contact cement, it doesn't grip anything. This kind of just doesn't adhere until all of a sudden it's solid. So I'm going to put some on there, sparingly apply that. And then I'm just going to let it set here for a couple of minutes until it starts to set up. I mean, there's no sense putting it on there, and I discovered this, putting on there and holding it for 5 minutes, because when I can just let it sit for like 3 minutes and then hold it for 2 or 3 minutes instead of that long, as long as I attach it before it sets. It doesn't bind as well then. I mean, it's supposed to be in contact with itself, just like bubbling away, doing its chemical, whatever it does as it hardens. It's a good idea to leave that there so that I can lean over and put my arm in it. Okay, so this is supposed to be here. Eyeballing it to make sure it's kind of like where it's supposed to be. What I don't want to do is just smear it all over the place. So there's some stairs in place. As far as I can see, which isn't very well, the flat surface is in contact with the flat surface. And now I need to sit here and hold it for a couple of minutes. So while I'm holding it for a couple of minutes, let's see, should I continue talking about Yogi Bear or move on? Well, see, Yogi Bear was very popular, and he was always in the Ranger's hair, so every episode involved Yogi Bear doing something to pull a prank on or annoy or bamboozle. That's a good word. I'll say that, bamboozle Ranger Smith. Would get all upset, but Yogi would get away with it, but never really did any horrible harm I know of. And Boo Boo, that's a great name. Little buddy, Boo Boo, little buddy. People would talk like Yogi Bear. I can't. I don't do voices. I've said that before. I'm repeating myself. Because this is repeat season, because I don't have anything novel to talk about. So Yogi Bear, would always do that. And it was, I think, essentially the same plot over and over and over and over again, with tiny minor variations that were adequate to keep preteens and early teens entertained, and unfortunately enough adults entertained so that they would imitate Yogi Bear for reasons, I'm sure, that they thought was really clever. So there's that. There were a whole bunch of cartoons. There were a lot of cartoons back then. Sometimes they had their own shows. Sometimes they were just like interludes that came into other shows, like the old cartoons on the Mickey Mouse Club, or during Captain Kangaroo and stuff like that. Super Chicken, that was a favorite. The person who plays Who shows up on our chat sometimes as Who plays Nines the Tabaxi Bard in our Dungeons and Dragons show, which you need to watch. Dyson Dungeons is all about the Dungeons and Dragons show, which streams with a live chat on Twitch on Sundays at 3 Sundays a month. You can catch old episodes on YouTube or listen to them as a podcast. It's extremely entertaining. But the person who plays Nines the Tabaxi Bard, who was cursed and is now in the form of a vanishing badger. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you need to watch a bunch of old episodes on YouTube to find out how that happened and why. We haven't lifted the curse yet. Nines the Tabaxi Bard is still a badger, but appears in chat on this stream as Who. Okay. Bought for me figure of Super Chicken. Never heard of Super Chicken, so when I talked about Super Chicken, Who went online and found out about Super Chicken and was appalled because Super Chicken gets his superpowers by drinking his secret sauce, which is mixed up and served in a martini glass. And that was a kid's show. I mean, that kind of thing was permitted back when I would watch those kinds of shows. Yeah. Nowadays, you couldn't get away with that. That would just be age inappropriate or something. Somebody would cancel that out. Okay, well, that's sticking well enough that it's not falling off. So I'll do another one. So I think the theme song for Super Chicken was pretty good because there were a lot of words to it and the rhymes were decent instead of, just repeating the same words over and over again. And I don't remember them exactly. It was something like if you're approached by a stranger, if you think that you're in danger, when you think that you might take a licking, call on Super Chicken. And Super Chicken would go bok, 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 bok because, does a chicken noise because it's Super Chicken. But the best, all these things had a catchphrase, like Yogi Bear was smarter than the average bear. Super Chicken would, get into super form. Had to wear a mask and get a cape because everybody who's super had to have a mask and a cape. That's how you knew you were super. Would get into kind of trouble. And his sidekick would say, I mean, not in trouble, but why don't you use your supervision? And Super Chicken would say, if I had any supervision, I wouldn't be in this mess. We all used to chuckle at that. Ha ha ha. So here, I'm going to just make a list of the cartoons I can remember. Super Chicken, Yogi Bear, El Kabong. El Kabong was actually an alter ego of another character. Why can't... Okay, well, so much for memory, remembering things. Deputy Dog. There was Sweet Polly Purebred. His hero was wow. Yeah, I'm blanking. This is not good. I'm blanking out on cartoons. Of course, there was Peabody and Sherman, Rocky and Bullwinkle. That was good. Rocky and Bullwinkle was always really good. And they were interspersed with Dudley Do Right and the Mounties and Peabody and Sherman. Peabody with the Wayback Machine. I have to say that I really like the way this came out. Okay, I managed to paint all these little raised details, and they actually look better than the decals. And even on the chair, I think that came out pretty well. I have the chair off of its stand because I keep bumping into it and knocking it over. It doesn't cement on. I mean, I could cement it on, but it's supposed to rotate, unlike the real chair, which I don't think ever rotated. Okay, well, let's see if I can get this one in place as well. Not enough on here. Okay, well, let me see. It's still sticky enough. It's not sticking. Helpful when it's not sticking because it's supposed to stick. That's the point. The point of an adhesive is to adhere. You're not supposed to do is what I just did. Damn it. Sorry. I just lost my PG rating there. So I got a little bit of the epoxy up on the top. It's glowing. It's shiny now. Cleaned up in time. Okay, now it's sticking. That's good. That was just a little bit of isopropyl alcohol, which is the solvent one uses to clean up epoxy. I think that's holding now. It's not. It's not. It's not lined up. There. I need more light. Oh. Oh. I have a flashlight on my phone, which I happen to have with me for a reason. Turn it off. Well, okay. So apparently I can't even attach staircases. Well, one more to go. I'll attach the last one, and I'm going to go back and do painting. Paint the gray paint. Yuck. Paint the gray paint on the display panels. I'm going to take a chance. It's risky doing that this late in the stream. The coffee starts kicking in. What else? Yeah, the coffee. Anyway. Oh, that was the word I said I wasn't going to say. I've really cut back on my use of that word. That was one of my New Year's resolutions, is to not say that word over and over again. And I just did. But I don't slip up very often. What I do slip up on is keeping my work surface neat and clean, which was my other New Year's resolution. But yeah, I mean, that was a long time ago, wasn't it? New Year's resolutioning. But now it's going to come around again. I'm going to renew my resolution about keeping my work surface clear and clean. That's going to be kind of, I think it's going to be a recurring resolution, kind of a never-ending aspiration. It's going to be one of those things like a goal. Oh yeah, I talked about that once before. The difference between goals and objectives. Doing long-term planning, I used to be an executive type kind of, and every once in a while we have to get together with the board of directors, and you bring in a consultant who charged too much money to just basically spout aphorisms and things that were obvious, just that kind of thing. I'll just say that. But we would spend, you had to have a mission, and you had to have goals and objectives. That was always part of it. You had to have those layered on each other. And we would spend a lot of time talking about the mission statement. There was one person on the board who just got really, really, we have to go through every word of our mission statement again. And it took like hours and hours, and everybody knew what the mission was, but we had to argue about the different words because that's how the consultant managed to charge their hourly rate. And this guy owned a business, and he said, "You poor guys, working in healthcare, they're dealing with mission statements. My mission statement is make money." And I thought, well, yeah, that was clear. You have to do this sort of thing. But, so you got around in the mission statement, and it's basically the same as the old mission statement, but it had more modern words because, the catchphrases and things like that change over time. The phrase du jour. We'd get past that, but then it really got bad. And after the mission statement, it got bad because you had to have goals and objectives. And we ended up spending like hours and hours and hours trying to clearly differentiate the difference between a goal and an objective. And I did that a couple of times and just said, never again. I'm just not going to do that anymore. It's, you're not having goals and objectives. We're going to have a product. No matter what we are, whether in healthcare or welding supplies or whatever, there's a product. And then let's define what it is that we are going to deliver. It's not a mission statement. Okay. It's not this vague sort of, we will strive to be the best thing in the universe on this particular area forever and ever and that kind of stuff. Usually they were vague, flowery kind of messages in your mission statement. It wasn't a goal and objective because we didn't have to differentiate between whether it was something you were striving to do or whether you were trying to accomplish. It was just, this is what we deliver. And so I was just done with goals and objectives. So on this stream, I can talk about goals and objectives because, especially goals, I can talk about goals because those are things you never have to really meet. It's like you're aspiring to them. I've used that word too many times. Your intent is to try to do something kind of like that, but you never really expect to reach your goal, I guess, for some reason. It's just not something you do. That's why you have objectives, to get you toward your goal, but never quite get there. Why is this not? It's doing it again. It's not adhering. I don't know if the contact surface is not big enough or what. Try this again with the stuff that's almost set. Last time I did that, that's when I got the epoxy all over the top of it. My goal is to make those display panels look good. And now that I said that's my goal, I know that I don't have to really do anything about it. I can just keep plugging away at it. They'll end up looking adequate. Okay. So my goal is to make them look good, and my objective is to make them look adequate. There we go. How's that? That's a good long-term planning thing, isn't it? Oh my, and it's not even, and I moved it way off to the side. Hope that didn't mar the surface terribly much. I was so caught up in defining the difference between goal and objective that I just made a mess. Well, there. Well, it's sticking. I'm going to declare victory. The steps are aligned up here. They're not aligned down there. Nice. Well, this is like a B- model. And in this particular case, it's just because the stairs were just malformed to begin with. At least they look like they are. They're tilted up. That sag a little bit. And they'll be a little bit flatter. Not flatter like in, oh, that's really nice. Not flattery flatter, but just more horizontal. They're more horizontally now. They're not falling off. That was objective, not fall off. I'm going to take this and get it out of the way. One day, hopefully, the stairs will still be adhering. And I'm going to get the epoxy out of the way. To bring back the display panels and attempt to touch up the gray as necessary to make them look better than they do now, at least the little spots here and there. But first, always there's a but first, okay? Cut the green wire, but first, cut the red one, okay? I'm going to take a real quick break. I need to take a quick break. You can watch this and anticipate it looking better soon. When I get back, it'll be like just a few minutes. Okay. Here I am back. I'm going to put my head magnifiers back on, get the gray paint, get this gray paint, get it mixed up, and then make tiny little corrections that will make this look adequately good. And I'm going to continue working on these display panels. I'm not going to be able to mask them because the paint's going to be wet still. But I might end up a little early depending on how it goes. So I'm going to do this until one condition is met. Either I finish and I get all 5 of them to the point where they look okay. Okay, that's one conclusion condition. Okay, the other is that the light on, there's an LED light on this, the battery runs out and the light turns off, in which case I won't be able to see well enough to do this. Okay, or it's 1 o'clock. So whichever of those happens first, I finish, the light burns out, or it's 1 o'clock. I'll be finishing my stream today. And on Monday, what I'll be doing on Monday is, assuming that these are done, I'm going to be masking them so I can start the next step of the process, which would be to paint the base. And that step of the process will involve masking all of everything except that. Okay, so masking all the way around. Okay, and including the back. And then it's a 2-step process. I'm going to prime them, which I should have done way early on, and I didn't, but now I need to prime them, and then put maybe at least 1, maybe 2 coats of the off-white paint on that. Using Insignia White. It's the same color that I used for the sides of the elevator and the side viewing screen. Do my best to be really focused here. Okay, I'm probably going to go silent again. Not probably, I am going to be going silent again as I have to fix bits of white that went too far. There is a rogue bristle. This brush keeps getting smaller and smaller as the bristles get bent and need to be removed. Well, it's not stuck there. Must be incredibly patient. With the smallest little dab of paint on there. Spot there. That needs a little bit of white paint. Maybe I'll come back to it when it just didn't cover well. Like a second coat kind of thing. This kind of thing is the hardest. The paint is built up. So there isn't a way to get a smooth line. It's a matter of painting a little bit of gray over a lump of white. Well, it wasn't a spot, that was a piece of little white debris, dust. I don't really see too much. There's a little bit of wiggle here. I don't know. I have to live with that. Say this is okay. This one's not good. This one's going to take. This is going to be interesting. Spot there. I have to come back. I'm going to use the white again to fix some spots that need to be fixed. Some of them are just, like that one spot where it wasn't adequately covered. It's like a second coat that didn't get coated correctly. Hopefully there won't be too many spots where the gray went awry. Here again, there's just a buildup of paint. Okay, what was happening there is I started seeing double. Yeah, just little wiggles here and there. Just some of those just can't be fixed. They just can't. It's the paint is built up on them enough that can't get a clean line anymore. Yeah, this is moving along toward. It's okay. Even under magnification, it's looking okay. There's not much white that needs to be redone. A couple of tiny little spots here and there where it needs some recovering. Hopefully, I'm not missing any huge obvious spots. it's a little, the gray paint just, it hasn't leveled well. So there's just lots of brush marks on it. So this looks, it doesn't look great in the sense that if this were all spray painted on and the surfaces were nice and flat and level everywhere, and there weren't any brush marks, better. But given that, given my skill level, the materials I'm working with, it's coming out, it's coming out okay. Yeah, I think it's okay. It's there's a couple of spots maybe where I could put some white paint on it. I'll take a look at them and get the white paint out and just take a look and see if there's like just spots that aren't covered very well. What's up with that? No, that's just shiny because it's not dry yet. Okay, I have to be careful not to overdo. It's one of those where there's is a lump of paint. Trying to paint a straight line over a lump. Might be better off trying to no. Definitely not better off trying to scrape that. Okay, that worked. It's not perfect, but it looks pretty decent. Okay, there wasn't that much. I thought there would be more. So unless I'm missing something, which is possible, I'm going to say that it is like mostly done. And I might just want to do a little bit of white touching up on spots where it wasn't adequately covered. Like down here, it's not the line. It's just, it needs to be recoated. So I'm going to do that. I think I can do that because I'm not drawing a line with the paint. I'm just touching up a spot that wasn't covered completely, so it looks streaky. I'm just going to do that. I'm going to go over them. Put some extra white. One day, I'm going to start masking these so that I can paint that off-white color, insignia white that I've used on other parts of the model. And that will mean doing some priming and then painting. Little one, I think. This is like the weapons control station. So it's kind of an important thing. It's just recalcitrant. It is not. It is not cooperative. Looks like a moderately adequate hand painted situation where the lines aren't perfect and the paint is lumpy. I mean, other than not being terrific, it's not bad. There's another cartoon, Tom Terrific, the great, self-proclaimed greatest hero ever. I did talk about that quite a while ago, including speculation about what being a hero was, especially several so-called superheroes who had superpowers, which I was arguing meant that their actions were not really heroic because it didn't put themselves in danger. I mean, like Superman rushing into a burning building to save somebody. Well, for an ordinary person, that would be incredibly heroic because they were putting their own lives in serious danger. But for Superman, I'm not going to burn. So, yeah, I can just run into a burning building. So what? So I would say that wasn't heroic, much less superheroic. That's just my opinion. Yeah, well, I ended up finishing a little early. Maybe I'll take some time after I clean this brush to show you some dungeon tiles to explain why it is that this stream exists at all. I can do that, and then knock off for the day. Yeah, that one's a little ragged. I had a lot of trouble with the gray paint on this one. I might just call it I can't do any better. I'm really not happy with it right there. It's just a ragged edge, but the paint just keeps building up. And I can't get it to lay evenly. So it's just going to have to be the way it is. It is what it is. And I will repeat something I've said many times is if you can't get your A+ model, the way you deal with that is just make sure that no one gets any closer than 18 inches and that the lighting is sort of indirect. There's lots of ways to hide little flaws. Mainly by just making it so you can't see them. Well, what I can say is that it looks better than it did before. And where it doesn't look great, it's in places where we can't do much about it. So there's that. So I have to remember to charge these. I'm going to help me remember that. Take these off. I don't need that. To help remember to charge these, I will actually plug the charging cable in and let them sit here right in front of me, because I'm more likely to remember something that's sitting right in front of me than not. And then I'm going to cover these that I just painted with some paper towel so that they don't get, over the weekend, who knows, that they don't get all dirty and stuff. And then I'll begin on Monday masking them to get into the 1, 2, 4-step painting process, which will require one masking. That gets unmasked. Yeah, because the part that gets painted has to get masked over. So I mask it once to paint the base, and then I hand paint the red edge because it just has to be done that way, and it will look a little lumpy, but it's how it will be. And then I mask everything. So I only have to do two maskings to get it done. 2 maskings, but a prime, a paint, a hand paint, and another spray paint. Yep, those will be the steps that I've gone over on the stream before, but I'll start it on Monday when I start the masking process to paint the bases of those display panels. The other thing I can do is I can assemble the railings and put those on pretty much like I put the steps on today. Just add more stuff to it. But I've got 15 minutes left, so I'll use some of that to show you these. What I've got here are examples of our dungeon tiles. And there's more of them somewhere, but I don't know where they went. Let me show you some of the evolution. This is how the stream got started. These things are printed on the PLA printer back here, one of them, and they come out like this, dark. Well, there. The camera guy was not paying attention. Again, I don't know. I'm gonna have to do an intervention with my camera guy, I think. Oh, there they are. There's some other things that are kind of cool. I'll bring these over too. If I've got time, I can show a bunch of them. How they got put over there, but they did. So we've got like cut stone that looks like this. Okay, we've got rough stone that looks like this, and we got wood that looks like this, and they all involve coming off the printer black like this, and then they're primed, and then they're base coated, in this case gray, in this case brown, and then they're detail painted like here, these little detail blocks, and then they're washed with a gray wash like this is to make it look a little bit less flat. And these are unwashed. The wood is kind of fun. It comes out like kind of a dull brown and light, and then the wash that we found for it is really gives it a profoundly beautiful color. It's all full of dust. Shows off the wood grain really well. Okay. But the important part about these, as you can hear and see, is that on the bases there are ball magnets in each corner, and they stick to each other. And so, you can get dungeon tiles that are magnetic, but they're magnetic on the base. There's a magnet in the base that sticks to like a baking tray or something. But these don't. This is just paper towel on cardboard on wood, and they stick to each other, and they come apart easily, and they hold together. And so they can be rearranged into all sorts of arrangements really easily. Okay. Yeah, just see that. It's really cool how that works. And this stream started because they're all hand painted, including like the detail on the strapping and the handle on the door. Or in this case, there's a fire sigil that's printed into the wall that, is painted multiple colors. This is red and black, brass and copper. So it looks pretty cool. And there are special ones, like there's some with a cauldron printed right on it that you can have a flame come on during your show. You can say, oh, there's a cauldron, and then the fire mage goes, flame on, and there's a flame, which are also nicely hand painted. There's corner tiles, outside corners, inside corners, doors that open and close. Okay. And then our DM has been improving these over and over and over. Like the very, very first ones, the walls and the floors were separate pieces. And then she figured out how to print them so they're one solid piece. So it's always a 90-degree angle and they don't break off like some of our early dungeon tiles did. And the doors have improved along the way too. You can see these early doors. There's three pieces. There was the frame, the door, and the lintel over the top. And they're pin hinged, and the pin would go through the door and everything, and then this would go over the top and be epoxied on to hold it in place. But now she has created them so that it's not anymore, because we have a new printer that will stop partway through, and it'll stop. We can install the door and then print over the top. And the bases have changed too. You can see in the early versions that there was a base plate. Even though this was one solid piece, the magnets went in and the base plate snapped on and adhered. But now she can print up to here, put the ball magnets in, and finish printing so that there isn't even a base. Nothing can come off on this. So a huge improvement in appearance. Okay, there isn't any base that can come off. There aren't any parts that can break, and the door is solidly attached. The only downside is painting. The door has to be painted in place, which means, carefully painting the edges and things like that, which isn't, it's not that hard to do. It's just easier to paint them. It's easier to paint them separately and then install them. The other improvement, and this is amazing, is, when you're 3D printing fibers across a surface like this, okay, a horizontal surface, little stringy things happen, and those can be filed off, okay, but they don't have to be now, because she figured out how to print it so that it's an absolutely smooth surface. Look at that. Look at the difference between, as much as you can see black on black, between before and after. So these are incredibly high. This version now is incredibly high quality dungeon tile that has magic magnets in it, that is solid piece, that has no flaws. She was even able to do this with the windows. Okay, the same sort of thing happened here over the arch, trying to print it. You can see the roughness here. And now there isn't. And now they're printed with no roughness at all. I don't know if I'm ever going to get back to painting dungeon tiles, because we don't need more for the show at the moment. But the capability to produce a lot of these is there, and that might be something we look forward to doing someday. So that's why this stream existed, because of dungeon tiles. If I put them over there, there's actually an empty spot there. I used to have them there. I think I'm just going to keep them there, because they're as much out of the way there as anywhere. There. Okay. Look at the paper towel here. With the instructions. This is now complete. I got the steps on, so all of this is done. All of this is done. This has been installed into this. I am working on these display panels, but the elevator is done. The main screen panel and the main screen side panel, these three panels are done. They're not installed yet, but they're done. And I'll be finishing up the panels. Okay, and you can see there's a bunch of them here that go between the main screen viewing side panel in the elevator, and they go around there like that. And there's nothing here. It's just the way it is. And then these railings get attached. They show where two of them go. They don't show where the rest of them go. And then the panels themselves are just covered with decals. They say decals. Yeah, they are. In each of the view screens, just all the little screens, the things down below, circular stuff on the top. There's bajillions of decals that will be going on each one of them, and each one has to be in the right place on the right panel, which they don't really tell you which one goes where, do they? No, that's pretty. These three are the same. I mean, the panels are the same. The decals aren't the same. But this panel and that panel are special, I guess. The communications panel next to the elevator and the weapons control panel next to the main screen side panel. These are numbered and they have to be in the right place. And then, yeah. So eventually all of these panels, all 5 of them, the 4 big ones and the small one, will be painted, and then they will be decaled. And after they're decaled, which will take quite a while, the decals are kind of fiddly, then they need to be attached somehow. They don't fit very well. Because I test fitted them, they don't fit very well. They need to be attached to the circle like that. The chairs are done. And at some point, I'll put the railings on. But my main focus now is going to be on Monday. I'll be masking these panels, the 5 display panels, so that I can paint the bases on Tuesday. Primer, probably 2 coats of paint. And then on Wednesday, I'll be unmasking them, painting the red stripe, and then remasking them top and bottom so I can paint the middle panel. And after the middle panel is painted, then I can start putting decals on. There is a slim chance that the painting might be done by a week from now, next Friday. I usually say that. I usually say if everything goes well, the final unmasking will be on like Friday of next week, and then I can start putting decals on. Reality hardly ever matches the goal. Okay. But in the meantime, I can start assembling the minifigs. I got Spock, Sulu, and Kirk. Spock kind of looks like Spock. Sulu kind of looks like Sulu. Kirk doesn't look like Kirk. But I can cement the pieces, rub out the seams, because, they did not have seams halfway around their body. And then I'll have minifigs to paint, basically. Yeah. So there. Thanks for watching. I'm glad to be back this week. I will be back on Monday at the usual time. Hopefully be able to go through the usual, from 10 until 1, depending on how things are going on the construction project, which continues to be unpredictable and will be for the rest of next week. Yeah. I hope this went out. Everybody, I'm just going to check a couple of things here. Yeah, it said live online. It started. So yeah, I'm gonna shut down and see you all on Monday when I will do masking tape. Yay! On the display panels. See you then. Bye.